Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the podcast that we bring you each and every day on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube and subscribe, share, and like all the great content over there on the Dynamo Podcast Network. As always, support Irish podcasting. This is your Chelsea versus Man United preview. And joining me tonight are a couple of OGs from the Monday mashup, Mark and Anthony, and Darren made his appearance on there. Also joining me from the Under Centre podcast, Darren Marr himself, bringing you all that great NFL content on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Joining us all the way, he's made his appearance before on the Four Podmen. Leon, great to have you on again. And representing the Blues, and he's covered in blue, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, the gaffer from the Dynamos Podcast Network, who hosts Dynamos Dozen, the Four Podmen, a regular upper tier. This man is on every podcast at the moment. Lads, great to have you all on.
What's up, Niall?
Yes.
Good to be here, man.
Good. So, I suppose, where do we start with this? Let's start with, United. Mark, talk to me. What you're thinking, this big match coming up. It's a huge match, really. I mean, it's like it kind of feels like a 6-pointer in terms of the top four race.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's always been tough to go to Stamford Bridge. You know, there's years ago we couldn't buy a win there. I think we won there 2-0 last season. Remember the few seasons ago, I think it was. Remember the 2-2 draw. I think Ross Barkley scored the last kick of the game or something. So they're always quite good games, and it's always tough going to Stamford Bridge, like I said. But this like we went off the back of a win against Newcastle, so they only drew with Southampton. So both teams have been kind of inconsistent over the last few months, you know. So it makes for an interesting tie.
Darren, what you're thinking? Obviously, I mean, Pogba, I don't think is available for the weekend. He's obviously fairly influential in terms of how United pull those strings in midfield. How big a loss do you think he will be?
Yeah, he is going to be a big loss, like, you know. But I think from a United point of view, we are kind of looking at it and saying, once we've got Bruno there, it gives us a little bit of a fighting chance. He's become a talisman for us, you know. And as influential as Pogba can be, I just think at the minute, Bruno produces a little more regularly than Paul does. So it's just good to make sure that he's going to be there. I'm kind of surprised Ollie is starting tonight, to be honest with you. You're 48 hours from a game like that, or 4-0 up from the first leg. You know, if he gets a knock tonight and misses the game on Saturday, it's mental for my money, I have to tell you, you know. I think it's quite dangerous putting him into a game like that tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it, with Solskjaer? He tends to like to work these guys to the bone. I mean, the likes of Rashford and these guys, they never ever get a break. Shaw, they rarely ever get a break. Like, he just wants to work them. Anthony, what's your feeling? I mean, I don't know, is Cavani back? I haven't heard whether Cavani's back either, but looking at that midfield, without Pogba, and then Bruno in there, and you're playing a bona fide top 4, top 6 team, you know what I mean? He has been found wanting in some of these fixtures.
Yeah, we don't know. We haven't heard anything about Cavani yet. But this is his third or fourth match he's been missing now. You know what I mean? That was like, yeah, we've scored 4 goals against Sociedad. We scored 3 against Newcastle. You know what I mean? So maybe goal, like his ball holding up skills are unreal. You know what I mean? He finds a pass, he finds a pocket of space, he creates space. You know what I mean? When you're missing him and a player like Pogba, like, fair enough, we do have Bruno, but I don't want to be, we have Bruno and that's it. You know what I mean? We don't want to be just Bruno. But when you have lads like those missing, you can see it. Yeah, we have a couple of wins under the belt now, but you can see it. It's got potential to be a pretty hard match if Fred and everything gets like Darren, as what we're saying, if those lads get a knock, what do? You know what I mean? When you have 2 big players already missing, what happens?
Yeah, Darragh,
the tree has to come back in as well.
Yeah. But Darragh, that 3-1...
Will he be ready for Saturday?
That's the problem.
You know?
Yeah. Dara, that 3-1 victory against Newcastle didn't really tell the tale of the match when you think about it. I mean, for large pockets of that game, you know, a really poor Newcastle side had United at times on the rack. And even though you came out on top 3-1, and we mentioned it in the Monday matchup with Mark, it was a real good result considering your own team was depleted for that game. But certainly, I mean, Newcastle at times looked like they could really put you to the grinder. What was your thinking?
Yeah, it would only be United that would make Newcastle look like PSG against Barca in the midweek now. But it was a tough first half. It kind of was. It's kind of reminiscent of earlier on in the season, where every away game United would play, they'd go 1-0 down in the first half, and then the second half they come back and win it. And I think they're sort of in this sort of little rut of form at the moment that I think every team is going through at some point in the season, where they're not winning games and they're not playing too well. And I think that they have to sort of find a way to get out of that as quickly as possible. I agree with the lads, playing the likes of Bruno and stuff like that tonight especially is very dangerous, because if Bruno, especially if he was to get an injury, you know, that'd be unforgivable. I'm sure Ian would be delighted if Bruno wasn't playing on Sunday. But yeah, it's strange with the team at the moment, and you know, there is an over reliance on Bruno. When he's not in that side, the team can't create anything. I was just had a look even at the Real Sociedad team for tonight. They didn't even put David Silva in the squad, so they knew themselves that this tie is over. But Solskjaer is still thinking about playing the likes of Fred, Greenwood, and Fernandes and Wan-Bissaka, and not giving them a rest before, like you're saying, a really, really big game when it comes to the top 4 race on Sunday. And if they do lose it, they have a lot of tough fixtures coming up, including City away. So, you know, trying to keep your best players, giving them a rest where possible is vital, especially for this time of the year.
I think with Solskjaer, it's all about confidence, really, and he needs a big sort of performance tonight out of those players to bring that confidence in against Chelsea, because even though they beat Newcastle 3-1 and they had a good result against Sociedad last week, they don't feel like they're confident. They feel like they're just getting through the games. And that would be probably his concern, that he needs those boys to show up tonight, put in a strong performance, put Sociedad away, and then take that winning mentality and performance into the game at the weekend. Because you're going to come up against, and I know Wayne will come in with Leon now in a minute, this is a serious Chelsea side. There's talent all over the park, and they still really haven't hit their top form yet. They still have a lot more to give. A lot of their, you know, the players, a lot of their forgotten stars, if you like, have come back into the fold and are playing really well as well. So I'll pass over to the blue side of this preview. Ian, talk to me about Chelsea. Come on, get in there. The Tuchel era is well and truly established.
Well, I've waited with bated breath. This is the quietest I've been for the first 10 minutes of any podcast, so I'm actually proud of myself for that one. No, I agreed with Mark at the start of the show. The only thing I'll say, Mark probably got a bit wrong, and in fairness, I don't mean this as any disrespect, Mark. It's just that I think Chelsea, in terms of the bar the result against Southampton, have been on phenomenal form, considering they went from 9th to 4th, and then obviously with the draw went down to 5th. So I think Tuchel, over the last few games since Lampard has went, they've been on great form in terms of getting results and kind of having a style of play. But I see what Mark means. It's not like, you know, if we had goals at the end of the possession, you know, we're a bit like Barcelona, Man City in the sense that, you know, you see 60-70% possession in Chelsea's favour. We just haven't been putting the ball away and kind of getting 1 and 2-0 wins here and there. But it's done enough to kind of get us to the top 4. But I think that game against Southampton's a little bit irrelevant now when you think of the result that they had during the week against Atletico Madrid. Do you know what I mean? That's going to give them a huge confidence boost. Obviously, the day's rest as well. The fact that United are missing Pogba, I think will probably just slightly kind of put the favour towards Chelsea in that sense. But look, it's always an intriguing game when you play like pretty much the 2 most successful teams in the Premier League over the last 20 years. You know what I mean? It's been United, Chelsea. As Mark said at the start, it's very true. Like, United actually had quite a lot of success in recent times against Chelsea at the Bridge, and Chelsea seemed to have success at Old Trafford. It's kind of one of those weird pendulums that it shifts at different times. So I'm thinking there's a lot of confidence going in there with Chelsea. I know you mentioned earlier as well, actually. You look at Giroud and you're thinking he's the white Drogba at the moment for Chelsea, isn't he? He's just Mr. Big Game player. Like, you put him, starting against Southampton, he'll probably do nothing. But you put him on against the United or the Atletico Madrid, he's bound to just score some sort of banger out of nowhere. So, I do agree with you, Niall. I don't think we've hit top form yet. I do think what Tuchel has done since he's come in has actually been very, very impressive. And I was always a Tuchel fan, as you know, but he's actually surprised me with how quick he's got a style of play going on. And I think two players that aren't getting enough credit at the moment is actually Jorginho and Kovacic. I think the way they're bossing midfield and possession is as two kind of sixes, but sometimes Kovacic can kind of act as a double six, and Jorginho's passing ability is just phenomenal. So yeah, it's an intriguing game, to be honest with you. I think it will be won and lost in the midfield. Personally, I'm sure the lads might agree or disagree. I don't know, but I think it will be won and lost in the midfield. I think Bruno will obviously. You can't really man mark Bruno, but that's why I think with the three at the back that Chelsea have is where I see Tuchel kind of concentrating on it, because you've got Christensen there playing at the moment almost like a sweeper. So he's kind of, I suppose, going to be the one that has to keep an eye on those runs in from Bruno. So I think the key, I don't know whether United guys will agree here, I think the key will be who he plays up front. I think if he plays Martial in the centre, that could be a bit of a worry in the sense of his pace. And then with the runs off him from Bruno Fernandes, I could see that being the problems that might come from United side.
Yeah, you'll have no worries at all. You should be smiling if they start with Martial, because that lad can't hit a barn door from 2 yards.
He goes against us though. He scores against Chelsea though.
Yeah, Leon, jump in here and tell me what you're feeling at the moment. How happy are you with Tuchel? I mean, he's certainly bringing that German resilience to the back line there in Chelsea. You know, you're not giving a whole lot away, and you've sort of matured into seeing games out, even with tight 1-0s and stuff like that. So, but it really looks strong at the moment in terms of what you were experiencing under Lampard.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was one of them ones that was annoyed and disappointed that they got rid of Lampard. Like, Jesus, as far as I was concerned, we were top of the league in December. Like everyone this season has had a bad run of games, bad run of form. It just seemed it's happened in reverse for United and City, you know. But like Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, they've all suffered. So I was willing to give Lampard time, wanted to give him till the end of the season at least. But I knew this would happen. Like, new manager comes in, and all these players like Alonso, Jorginho, Kovacic, they all get a new lease of life, start playing great again. You can rely on them, even Rudiger as well. So can't complain. It's been great. Like they've been solid. Yeah, fair enough. They haven't been 4 or 5-0 wins but the possession's been good, and they're getting the 3 points. That's the main thing. Apart from obviously the weekend's game, it's going to be tough. Like United doesn't matter what kind of form they're in when they come to Stamford Bridge. They're always cause a slip up for us. Players like Martial and stuff like that normally would do nothing, pop up and score, and like even in the past, like guys like Lingard and stuff who I wouldn't have thought much of come to Stamford Bridge and they're setting up goals left, right and centre, you know. It's going to be tricky. Definitely, I'd say it'll be won and lost in the midfield. My problem, I think, at the moment still is, like, I don't know, Ziyech, who we bought, he's not the player that we bought. Like, he's so frustrating. Not kind of offering anything at the moment, like gets knocked off the ball easily. Even Pulisic as well, getting very frustrated with him. Whereas before, I think like we'd great talent down the wings. I know I'm going back years now, but you think of Duff, Rob, and Joe Cole and all that stuff. We haven't had that in years.
Hazard.
Hazard, yeah. Apart from Hazard, yeah. But so I don't know. It's just kind of I think we are solid in the centre midfield, but like when it comes to kind of creating chances and stuff like that, and I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen in past Chelsea games the likes of Ziyech taking a corner and it doesn't beat the first man. Like, there's nothing more frustrating, you know. So, and then Werner's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get with him. Like, he is a workhorse, but he can't find the back of the net at the moment. So, I don't know. Obviously hoping for the win, but I'd say a draw is a safe bet. You know.
Yeah, it's certainly an intriguing fixture.
Be
Darren,
on your fired.
Darren, what have you made of Tuchel so far? I mean, coming in.
Yeah, I think he's done well, man. I think Ian just mentioned it there. German resilience comes to mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's kind of galvanised the lads. He brought a lot of the lads back from the cold, Rudiger and Christensen, and he brought Aspilicueta back and Alonso as well. Like, Alonso's looked like a player in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he wasn't getting a look in under Lampard at all. Now, I know you're going to have the lads on the bench. You've got the likes of Reece James, who was almost fighting for a place in the England squad. You Chilwell, who looked like he was going to be the nailed on England left back. And you've a couple of other lads that were in the team and now are out of the team. Kante as well. I've seen he was on the bench again the other day. So they're big changes, but he seems to have brought back, it's like that Mourinho thing. He brought back a lot of guys that were proven. He brought back a lot of guys that were a little bit older that he could put a bit of trust in. And I think what he'll try and do maybe towards the end of the season, if they either, get closer to a spot, he'll try and blood some of those younger boys back in, but drip feed them in, get one into the team. Then, keep playing well, keep picking up results, then maybe get another one in a couple of weeks. Because I don't think ideally they're going to go forward with the likes of Alonso and stuff like that. I think he'll want to get those lads back in the team, the Chilwells and the Reece James and stuff.
Can I say one thing? Actually, that's a good point. If you don't mind, I'll just say that, like, as a Chelsea fan, I'm sure Leon will agree. I think Tuchel has come in this year to say, right, my job is to get Chelsea top 4, possibly win a trophy. If we win a trophy, happy days. You know what I mean? Made a good step to beating Atletico Madrid, who I think are one of the tougher teams to beat in those final rounds of the Champions League. I'm sure you'd agree with me, Mark. You know how resilient they are, and I think I can't see them beating us in the home leg either, to be honest with you. So I think that's a really good point there. Like, he knows that the likes of Chilwell, Havertz, Werner were brought in for the long term, but his job is to steady the ship. I mean, Jorginho and Kovacic, that can be a midfield that can still go for another 2, 3, 5 years. They're still quite young in terms of their in terms of their career. I think Kante, I worry for Kante. I think Kante will be eventually sold in the next year or two. I don't see a place for him in there. One player I want to point out, Leon, and I don't know whether you'll agree here, one of the resurgence of Hudson-Odoi has been phenomenal under Tuchel. Pretty much most games. His crossing ability, a lot more confidence going forward. So, like, seeing, to that last point, seeing him bring in like that one player who's young from the academy, still only like barely 20, I think, going forward and playing with no fear. I think that's quite interesting to see, and I think it'll be next season where you'd really see Tuchel's Chelsea take form, obviously with a couple of signings here or there. But I'd say the guys that were brought in the summer definitely the players that he's going to run with long term. But
I think Mason Mount's been brilliant the last few games. Like, just so
player,
yeah.
Team skipping by 3 Atletico Madrid players there the other night, like nothing to him, like,
yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Lads,
Jack of all trades, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
Lads, just a quick one there. I'm getting a bit of feedback in there from a TV or something like that during the recording. If anyone has a TV on there in the background, but yeah, I'm looking at Tuchel there. There's a kind of there's a sort of a nastiness to him, isn't there? In terms of you see him
He's
there.
German.
Yeah, but you see him there the other day, like, he was on the sideline and he was tearing into Alonso. I think Alonso lost 2 balls and he was tearing into him. But I think he likes that kind of, that Verratti nastiness there in midfield with the likes of Kovacic and Jorginho. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bite to them. But there's even a bite to Alonso. And even Aspa, there's a bite to Cesar as well. Like, you know what I mean? Just that kind of. So he likes that kind of nastiness through the team as well, and I can understand that's why he's picking them.
Well, that kind of Niall, that kind of goes. Sorry, shut up after this, but that point is really good, because isn't that what Chelsea pretty much over the last 20 years have been known for, and pretty much one of the reasons that a lot of opposition fans don't like Chelsea, because they've had those players who will go through you and don't really give a shit whether you like them or not. You know what I mean? So I think, and I mean, United. We're speaking about United here as well, and I'll make a point about United. United have always had that as well, with the Roy Keanes and the Cantonas, and and I think And I'm sure you would agree here, lads. Like, that's what you want from your team, isn't it? You want that one player that all opposition teams hate, but he's going to, it's like Rudiger there seems to have that as well. Like, you see him grabbing Suarez the other day, and, you want that. You really want that. Like,
yeah.
United are really stoked for somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, we're as soft as shit running through that team, man. Like, for me, and I don't want to keep beating the drum, Bruno drives that team on, but he's not that spiteful bastard that's going to absolutely nail someone in a game that turns to the rest of the lads and says, now listen, I've done my part. It's time for everyone else to pull their socks up and give it a bash here, lads.
McTominay should have that, shouldn't he? With that Scottish kind of fucking...
I think he's got the ability to do it.
Yeah,
but I don't know if he's doing it enough.
6'4" or something? 6'4"?
He's a big boy. He's about 6'3", all right,
like,
and he's built well,
You wouldn't fancy him wanting to have a go off you, do you know what I mean? You'd probably want your manager to bring that out of him a little bit.
But then along with that, you've got Martial, who's afraid of his own shadow. Rashford wants to hug somebody. Greenwood's over on the other wing. You've got Dan James, who's completely afraid of his own shadow. So you've got like 4 or 5 players near the top of the pitch there that I wouldn't call ruthless. I wouldn't call aggressive. I wouldn't say we're going to put an awful lot of pressure on lads.
Yeah.
They're just happy to mosey along at times. And that's why United at times look like, they look like Brazil or they look like, Bolivia. It's...
Ideally, you'd want someone like a Diego Costa leading the line. If he's now going back a few years, the way someone like that, change a game, take away the scruff of the neck. But yeah, you don't have that at the moment, definitely not.
No.
Yeah, they need that Fernandinho type of steeliness in midfield, where like he'll absolutely carve you up. What I would say,
they had that. They had that, and they let him go. And the Herrera, he was that person that every other team hated because he would put in a shift each game for United, and he would, even games against Chelsea. I remember when he man-marked Eden Hazard and kick him off the pitch.
Yeah. Remember that game? Yeah.
I sort of look at Bruno and I think there's a different type of nastiness to him in terms of he's so competitive. He reminds me a lot of Robert Pires back in the day. He has that sort of like, he'll piss you off, but in a different type of way, and he has that kind of
in an arrogance kind of way.
Because you see him even when when he gets fouled and he makes those sort of chalky faces, like it's like, what are you doing type of thing, and the teeth come out.
Well, Niall doesn't.
Go ahead.
Dara's point there about Ander Herrera, and then your point about Thomas Tuchel, they both meshed together because it was Thomas Tuchel that brought in Ander Herrera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, you see it all through his teams. I mean, he had Thiago Silva there, he had Verratti. He's had a couple of real sort of henchmen there with that kind of nastiness.
Gundogan, I believe, Gundogan from City. Yeah, I think United need that, and I don't know. Ole Solskjaer, he's one of those lads like that. It's hard for me look, whatever about when we take about rivalry out of the side, we all have players from United and Chelsea that we all appreciate. You know what I mean? And you turn around and go, right. I mean, there's no fan on the planet that'll tell me that they wouldn't have had John Terry in their fucking team, because as soon as he was drafted or signed for them, they would have loved him. Do you know what I mean? Or Roy Keane, or Paul Scholes, or Eric Cantona. These are players that you hate for a reason. Do you know what I mean? And I think Solskjaer is one of those really likable guys. I mean, I can't say a bad word about the man, to be honest with you. I loved him as a player. And I love him as a manager, just as a human being. And I wonder, does he have that aggressive streak in him? Do you know what I mean? To actually encourage players to do that.
See, I don't think you're going to know that, because one of the big issues with the team, and I think this is what he's compensating to try and get through the year with, is that defense. Yeah, because it's so leaky, and that's the best thing I can say about it, that he has to overcompensate by playing 2 defensive midfielders in McTominay and Fred in almost every game. Even if it's against a Sheffield United at home, he'll play 2 defensive midfielders with 4 defenders, because he's so scared of what that defense is going to give up. And I think that's maybe a little bit why I think Bruno can seem like he's a bit out of form at the moment as well, is because they're expecting so much from Bruno up the front to, tie things together with the 4 strikers he may have there available for him to try and put something together to sort of get in through the year. And it's great against teams and I think it might work this Sunday against Chelsea, because Chelsea are going to be a team that are going to want the ball for a lot of this game. And it's going to be exactly what Solskjaer is wanting, because that's what Solskjaer wants. He wants to defend for 88 minutes and then like score in the other two.
Yeah, you would have thought that Harry Maguire is absolute bread and butter for Olivier Giroud, wouldn't you? I mean, Giroud will just relish in that battle there.
I'd say Giroud brought a brand new toaster for this particular occasion, to be honest with you. Just for Harry Maguire. What do you reckon, Leon?
But Giroud bullied him in that FA Cup semi-final. He bullied him.
Yeah.
Well, can you even imagine? Imagine
Mason
Mason Mount getting the ball, looking up and seeing Lindelof and Maguire there. You know, you're looking at it thinking, this is not going to end well. But going back to what Daragh said there about Fred, like the last few weeks, I don't know what the lads think. Fred has been frustrating me in the final third. Like, I know he got an assist against Sociedad, but his passing, and I'm not talking about your elegant 30-yard passes, 5-10-yard passes. He's giving balls away. He can't shoot for you know, but like he's just really frustrating me. I don't know what you think, lads.
No, definitely agree with you.
Sorry, Mark. Just on only because of Fred, I just wanted to ask you this. Because remember when Man City wanted him as well, and then Man City had a choice. I think their two key targets was Fred and Jorginho that year.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm asking as United fans, lads. Was Fred meant to be that type of Jorginho-esque kind of player that could be a bit bitey in the tackle but can also pass, or what? Because
well, don't forget when he came in, he didn't get a look in for the first few God knows how long, you know. When he was with, I think it was a Shakhtar.
He was with Shakhtar.
Yeah. When he was there, that's what he was meant to be. But I haven't seen any of it since he came. You know, obviously his confidence would have been low, not getting into the team and stuff. But he had a good run at the start of the season, at the end of last season, but just the last few games, he's just been frustrating to watch. You know, he's not doing the simple things right.
At Shakhtar, he played as a 10 a lot. And he used to be quite creative, but he was creative much higher up the pitch. So at the moment, he looks like he's trying to be creative, but Ollie has him sitting in between the back four and the halfway line, which means the passes he's trying to make. Now, I know he misses a lot of 5 and 10-yard passes, but the passes he's trying to make are a more difficult pass because he's not as high up the pitch. So then you look at him and you go, this bloke's giving the ball away all the time. Like I have to say, I'm a massive fan of his. I think when I see a United team sheet without him, I worry slightly because I don't think anyone does the donkey work in the team like him. But if I was Solskjaer, I would be saying to him, sit between the back four and the halfway line and never go past it. Play the Claude Makelele role, play the screen, play every ball sideways to the two lads beside you and let them move the ball about. Exactly. And you just sit and protect. Then let the boys in front play 5 and 5 and let the boys up front go and do their business.
Yeah, let McTominay go into the box and stuff, do all that.
Let McTominay play box to box and go both ends. So you'll have Fred playing as a defensive midfielder, you'd have Bruno playing as an attacking midfielder, and you'd have McTominay as the link between the two.
I find with Fred, he tends to hang on to the ball a bit too long, doesn't he? And he gets smothered very quickly. You can tell it in his pass completion rates and stuff like that. He tends to be pressurized really, really quickly because I suppose teams identify the fact that he has got that killer pass in him. So they tend to close him down a hell of a lot quicker, you know?
Yeah, I think like I have 2 season tickets, you know, and we sit behind the goal in the Stretford end. And he always does his warm-up with the attacking players. So when they're doing shooting practice, he's in the shooting practice, and I'm kind of looking going, why is he there? He's in there, you know what I mean? It's like they're asking him to do a job, but then they're not allowing him to do the job because if he's going to be in the team and do that job, don't get him up winning headers with Maguire and Lindelof. You know, get him making them 5-10-yard passes, get him doing little sprints. Don't have him shooting. We don't want him near the goal because you can see from his goals ratio, it's shockingly badly. So don't have him near the goal. But every time we set up to do a shooting drill before kickoff, Fred's the number one man taking the ball off the strikers, and I'm like, is this just because he's Brazilian or what's going on here?
Right. Well, I suppose based on the striker hit rate, he's probably doing them a favour, but that's neither here.
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of the difference between the two coaches, though, isn't it? Because, like, you see, I have the Chelsea app, like, and I subscribe to the premium thing, and it shows you like a lot of extended training, and I'm always just interested to see what the lads are doing. Anyway, just out of a love of football. And at least 2 days a week, I think, for an hour session, Tuchel has the lads, and I know there was a joke made about it or a meme. They're using the mini footballs, but it's all little sessions for the midfield specifically with the back just all about keeping possession and knowing where to go back into position. So again, I think it goes that's a coaching thing. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of what your style of play is going to be like, and I think that's one of the things you can see. Like, I mean, I don't want to see N'Golo Kante, like you just mentioned there. You know what I mean, Darren, taking shots before a match. You know what I mean? It's like,
he's there for a reason, defending. That's it, champ.
Exactly.
He's the water carrier. That's what he's there for. And he's amazing at it.
Unless we're getting this totally wrong, and they actually do think he's this sort of creative shooting force, and he's just really, really bad at it.
His stats at Shakhtar before the 2 seasons previous to him leaving Shakhtar were quite good. Like, if you look it up, he's got goals.
Well, William was good at Shakhtar, in fairness.
Well,
William
there you go. Yeah, that's
Shakhtar, you know. I think
it's like the Scottish League, isn't it?
I think we could have a team in the Ukrainian league, and we'd probably be fucking fairly decent. Like,
yeah, I think it's like Scotland, all right.
Maybe they're throwing him in there as a natural replacement for Martial in the summer or something like that.
If you're just going back to something one of the lads said about Bruno, him feeling like he has an awful lot on his shoulders. If you're Bruno and you look up ahead of you, and you've got Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood, who are all exceptional at times, and who are all horrendous at other times, you probably end up scoring an awful lot of goals because you just think it's handier if I take this and give it to one of the boys.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And you can see how physically frustrated he's getting in the final third. And passes are going astray now. He's just throwing his arms up in the air, looking, going, what am I doing here?
He is quite a creative player, isn't he? He's probably looking at that Chelsea team going, Jesus, if I had Werner on either side, or fucking Giroud, or, you know, whoever, like, you know, I'm taking that. Can I just mention a piece of news there, Niall, with Tammy Abraham looks to have sealed his Chelsea fate, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was it?
Well, there's plenty of Leon. You probably heard this as well. It looks like he's kind of refusing to sign a contract because he got word from the board, Marina. Anyway, we all know the Iron Lady of football. It looks like she's put all of her chips into the Haaland move this summer. Like that's who she wants to go after big time.
Well, Ian, even from a United prospect looking in at Chelsea, I never seen Tammy Abraham as your striker going forward for years to come. Do you know what I mean?
Me too. It's funny, even when I play FIFA, it's like he's a lad I end up like selling after a year or two. I know it sounds stupid. Like, it's just, I don't know, Leon, maybe you could come in on this. Like, have you ever felt that Tammy is going to be our next guy? I don't. He's 6'5", can't head a ball. He definitely can't hold up a ball.
No.
Couple of goals against Mickey Mouse teams, and
I think they were hoping he'd be the next Drogba, like, and just no, well, not the case at all. Like, he's not strong enough, kind of. No. He doesn't score enough. Yeah, you might have the odd game where he get 2 goals against West Brom or Sheffield United or something. That's not good. Like City, like seeing him starting against like City or Liverpool or anything like that, you're going, well, he's not going to score anyway. He won't get a second, you know. So not surprised to hear that. Like, he might do well in the Championship. I can't see another Premier League team taking him and him being a top scorer in the Premier League if he does decide to leave. The Haaland thing is interesting. Like, obviously, wouldn't say no to him, but like, who's to say he comes over here, you spend a fortune for him and it doesn't work out? You just wouldn't know. But
I think he's a different level of player, though. Like, I think that lad is just. I think he's the kind of Drogba, isn't he, lads? That
your problem's going to be there's going to be so many teams in Europe this year that are going to try and go balls to the wall while his fee is so low.
Well, there's only three realistically that I think that can sign him, and that's pretty much yourselves, us, and City. And City have already said that they're not entering bidding wars this year for any player. So that's City basically saying financial fair play this year is for them is fucked, because they're under proper scrutiny now this year, especially.
I think Real. I think you'd probably throw Real in there.
Real are trying to sell players as well. Real and Barca.
They are, but Real have been stockpiling cash for a little while for the Mbappe move, and that's why they made no signings last summer.
Yeah, but they're also
get Mbappe.
But they're also holding back on renewing contracts at the moment for Varane and Ramos.
Exactly,
because they're tied down to about 45 million in renewals there.
Yeah,
they're struggling even to sort that out. That's what word on the street is. Going back to
Liverpool as well. Sorry, Niall. Liverpool would be in there as well with the
only if we get top 4. Only if we get top 4. If we don't get top 4, forget about it. Anthony, the boys were talking about Bruno and his passing. I would preface that by saying that you can't pass from the penalty spot. What you thinking of what the boys were saying there in terms of Bruno?
Yeah, no, you can't pass from the penalty spot or jumping in the air, can you? Really?
No.
You look at the lads around them now. You know what I mean? And they're holding. They're trying to hold the ball up. They're getting chased down. They're getting smashed. They're getting absolutely hammered. Then you have Bruno that can pass the ball to these lads, but those lads are getting absolutely smashed. They can't pass the ball fast past the first person that's coming towards them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can see him being frustrated, lads. You know what I mean? When he wants these things to happen, he wants them to pass like he does. That might not happen for every player, though. You know what I mean? But he wants them to make the space, make a space, get behind your man. Don't just run into him and then throw the arms up in the air and give up. You know what I mean? Don't just do that.
There's a kind of a level that he wants to operate on, and anyone underneath that's getting an earful, really, you know.
Absolutely. But and it just seems like some of the lads aren't really able to go with it and rise to that level. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, but it just seems that way. Like,
well, I think the only player he hasn't been unhappy with lately, what I've seen on the pitch, is Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw is the one player that he actually trusts when he has the ball at his feet to get the ball off him, you know.
Definitely, yeah.
I looked at Tuchel's record versus Man United, and we know that the fixture is going to be quite tight. There may be goals in it, but the result is always quite tight. He's played 4 times against United, 2 wins, 2 losses, 7 goals for, 6 goals against. Couldn't be any tighter, like, you know what I mean? But here's a good one for you Chelsea fans, Ian and Leon. Dani Alves has described Tuchel as a German with a Brazilian soul, which is quite apt for him.
I think so, yeah.
You agree with that, yeah?
And Julian Laurence has called him a perfectionist in terms of every aspect. He says that he lives and breathes football and his team 24 hours a day. Which is not dissimilar to another German manager that we have in the league.
Ralph Hasenhüttl, is it?
I would
exactly.
I would say that definitely Tuchel, as I said, it was for me it was the only manager that was available. And realistically, if Chelsea want to go with that style of football, realistically, unless you're getting Pep Guardiola or something like that, which isn't going to happen, is the kind of manager that you could get that's proven. I mean, I heard your man from Leipzig and all, it was touted around. He's way too young, only 33. That's another Villas-Boas situation waiting to happen. This is a guy that can come in, literally big 6'5". He might be slim, but he just has that fucking German head, doesn't he? Like, fucking, you can hear him on the pitch shouting at lads, and it's like he's the Kaiser, basically. Do you know what I mean? Of that training pitch.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes.
It is.
He stares you to death, like.
Commands respect. You know what I mean? And I think that's essentially what it boils down to. And I think that's almost a lost art in certain football nowadays. And to see these players reacting to it, because you know that Chelsea are very, very lucky enough to have literally a squad of 24 that, like, on paper, like Chelsea probably have, along with City, the best squad man for man in the league. In terms of, you can take Alonso out, you can bring in Chilwell, you know, you can take out Azpilicueta, you can bring in Reece James, you know, you've Thiago Silva waiting to come back from injury. Christensen is doing a great job. I thought he had a phenomenal game against Atletico, actually. You got Rudiger there. You got Zuma on the bench, who was like, 6 or 7 goals this year. You know, you have Havertz, one of the top prospects in European football, ready to come in. And I think what he's doing with his man management side of things in giving these players the likes of Havertz and even Ziyech. I know Leon said earlier that Ziyech hasn't done that yet. And look, that's true. But, like, again, still only a 27-year-old player coming into the prime of his career. He'll either find a spot for him in that team or he won't. And they'll probably, they didn't pay too much for him anyway. So it's not going to be a huge loss if it didn't work out. I just see a manager. I think the timing was perfect. I see a manager coming in there looking, going, right, if Lampard is sacked, I'm taking that. I can put my fingerprints and my DNA all over this team. You know, with the blend of experience that he has there, i.e. Kovacic, Jorginho, Thiago Silva, who he's worked with, and Giroud, and then with the young lads that, as we quite clearly see, he's moulding into potential superstars. Mason Mount and Callum Hudson-Odoi come to mind there. Pulisic as well, who he's worked with before. I'm sure he's going to get the best out of Pulisic eventually. You're starting to see it. That lad has just been riddled with injuries again.
Very unlucky.
Yeah, he is. And I think Lampard's biggest problem was that he didn't know how to manage players' game time. Do you know what I mean? Players that were coming back from injury, like Pulisic, if that's a hammy, and you boy, Niall, you know, with Michael Owen, you bring these lads back too soon, the career is fucking ruined, like, you know what I mean? So I think managing their game time, that's another lost art in management as well. You know, I think Chelsea are just in a very, very lucky position to have a player for each position at the moment. And I think Tuchel was absolutely the best coach that was available. But to be honest with you, even if it got to the summer and they had their pick of coaches, I still think he would have been the best coach available for this team. I know hindsight is 2020, and we can say that now because it's looking good, and we all know that can change with a bad result. But I think he's the kind of manager that, with a bad result, you'll see the real side of him coming out and saying, right, you cost me that, boom, you're out for 2 or 3 weeks, you know. And I don't think we see enough of that in football anymore.
Well,
I think Ferguson used to be like that, and that's why Ferguson was so good.
You know, Leon, actually, I want to ask you a question, and Leon, I want to ask you too, but you were saying about hindsight, it looks great. What about foresight? Because Tuchel's last 2 jobs, he lost because of constant clashes with the board and the sporting director. Yeah. So, and you know the history Chelsea have had with managers and the board too. So,
I know the history of the trophy cabinet that's given us.
Yeah, I can understand that, but if you're talking about how you'd like Tuchel for the long term, but if he's going to continue his ways, that he is not going to take no for an answer, or he has his own views, and if that clashes with anyone else, he has no problem going at them, or, you know, even leaving. So it could be a battle coming down here between the board and Tuchel, and, you know, there's always only going to be one winner in that case.
Well, to be fair, I leave that for Sky Sports and the beautiful scumbag British media to comment on, because they love that stuff. For me, I'm you know, that's hypothetical. It's hindsight, and yes, it probably is inevitable. Who knows? However, I think with 2 years of Tuchel there, that's generally, you'll all agree, that's generally the lifespan of a Chelsea manager. With 2 years of him there, he will have created a DNA in those younger players that know how to play a certain style of football that I think would carry us into the next 10 years, the exact same way that when Mourinho came in his first 3.5 years, he created a DNA that still had that Chelsea team winning trophies far beyond his time was over. Do you know what I mean? I.e. Champions League 2012, that was still Mourinho's DNA all over it. You know, defending against Bayern Munich on their home turf, taking a fucking pounding, and then getting the win anyway. So Leon can answer that as well if he wants.
Yeah, listen, I think it's one of them things. It could all very well end in tears. I think I talked when Lampard was sacked and he came in, and I said, this lad's only going to be given 1.5 years, 2 years, and then someone else again, you know. All he can do is continue to play good football and win his games. And there's going to be arguments and disagreements over signings and all that stuff. But I don't know, like, I'm crying out for a manager to be there, like 5+ if not 10 years, like anywhere near what Ferguson was. And just, that's what I thought you'd get with Lampard, where kind of something similar to what Ian was saying. You get a DNA and you just stick with it, and there's your manager there for the next few years. It's probably not going to happen, but like, there's that argument that always pops up, like, it's not an ideal way to run a club, but like, many trophies and top fours or whatever are you winning is in your cabinet. Like, it's hard to disagree with, you know.
Can I say one thing before we go back to the gaffer though? Like, aside from Diego Simeone, in the modern football, is that really a thing anyway? I mean, United now have that trend of getting rid of managers. I know Ollie's there now for a bit of time, but United have built that. That's the modern football, like that, and that was always a European thing. Anyone like Ferguson is a one-off. Let's be real. When you think of the level of success he had, Ferguson and Marcello Lippi are the two managers that built dynasties. Do you know what I mean?
Arsene Wenger maybe as well.
Arsene Wenger to a point as well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you know, he was kept there. He was basically on fucking life support for the end. Like he was just drip fed, and he looked like it too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He looks better now than he did at fucking 10 years ago. You know, so Ferguson and Marcello Lippi, they're one of a kind. And in fairness, Arsene Wenger, I will put him in there. But like Gerard Houllier was there for a while. But what the fuck did he do? Yeah, they won 4 trophies. And Niall, you know what I mean? Like they hadn't won the league, the big one that you wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Klopp is there now, coming up to what's it, 5 years?
Yeah,
So
4 or whatever it is. Yeah.
And now you're getting the media turning on him again. You know what I mean? And planting those little seeds in Liverpool fans' heads, and they're all bickering amongst each other now as well. So
that's
gone.
as much as a societal thing for me, though.
Exactly.
You know, like I do admin on a United forum, and literally 6 minutes into a game, and they want to fucking line most of the lads up against the wall and shoot them.
Yeah.
And they're like, why is everyone being so impatient? Like, if we get thumped and you want to have something to say at the end of the game, roll it out, no problem.
Reactionary, isn't it?
It's all reactionary. Like a guy doesn't become a bad player because he hits a bad pass, or because he gets one-on-one the keeper and he doesn't finish it all of a sudden. He's not then, whatever they're calling him, X, Y, or Z, and you're just looking at him going, Jesus, lads, what is wrong with his day-to-day life that's all you have is to just bark at people like that,
well, you have
too reactionary.
You have to remember these are fans who grew up, enjoying so much success. And now they feel 8 years is a long time to be patient.
Well, listen, I'm one of them fans as well, but I'm also not going to say that, Martial, you're an awful cunt. You shouldn't wear the jersey ever again because you missed that one-on-one with the keeper. It's logically, do you know what I mean? That's not ever going to work. Football's about highs and lows. Obviously, you want more highs than you want lows, but there are going to be low points. And I mean, I've seen some of the Liverpool lads post it recently. If you can't support us when we're at our lowest, don't come near us when we're lifting trophies,
Absolutely.
Lads on TalkSport talking about Klopp out. No,
it's mental.
It's actually madness. It's madness.
Klopp, if left at Liverpool, will possibly go on to bring the sort of dynasty that Ferguson had at United. But if Liverpool are short-sighted, which I personally don't think they will be, if Liverpool were short-sighted and somebody decided to pull the trigger on them, on Klopp, I 100% think it's the worst thing they could ever do.
Well,
I think he's a genius.
Without going away from the narrative on Chelsea and United here, I think I just want to chime in on that. I think even Liverpool fans know that Klopp eventually does want to go and manage other places as well. And that's the thing you have. Your managers are so ambitious now. It's the whole career-driven thing. People don't really find a home anymore, unless they are a local player. Like, we're hearing Frank Lampard now about to take the Celtic job. Well, up there for the Celtic job, which I think would be. And I know that's a story for next week, Niall, but just on that, like, and getting back to Man United, Chelsea, like, I mean, you look at the two differences. Mourinho was the bold, brash little pup that came in and dared to fucking, disrupt Sir Alex's reign over the Premier League, and we ended up getting pretty much the start of box office Premier League. Let's be real. That was that 2004 year that Mourinho came in. That's when fucking revenue just went up and up and up. Like, and I think that's where we saw the Sky Sports era really kind of just, I suppose, if I'm speaking out of turn here, correct me, lads, but I think that's where we really saw it jump up tenfold. You know what I mean? And then we had the little mini rivalries then between Rafa Benitez and Mourinho, and Rafa Benitez and Alex Ferguson, and Wenger and Mourinho was also very entertaining.
I don't think you can forget the Wenger and Ferguson years though before that.
Exactly.
Where they hated each other.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that they were there, but then Mourinho came in just so fucking full of arrogance. You know what I mean? And
knowing how to get under the skin of other managers like that is
exactly
it's a skill in itself. Like,
yeah, exactly. And you're right there, Anthony. Like, for you, when you saw like Mourinho come in, I'm sure you were like, who's this little prick? Like, and the problem was people were jealous because he was good looking. He was. He was on every ad going. He was a sexy beast. You know what I mean? It was like the cunt hasn't even kicked the ball in his life.
Unlike a horse.
You what?
hung like a horse.
Well, more than likely.
Your season tickets for the dressing room, were they?
They're actually close enough, would you believe?
He didn't look. He didn't look that he had spent too much time on a rainy night up in Stoke. I get weather bet. That's what he did.
No.
Look like.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, like, and I think that's the evolution of the Premier League, and that's what leads us into Sunday. You know, again, no disrespect to you, Niall, but I'm sure you would agree. Like, in terms of Premier League, like they were the big battles of the last 20 years. United and Chelsea are the two teams that have kind of been the more successful English teams. I know City are starting to make ground on that, but they've never won a Champions League, so they're not going to win it this year either.
Well, I think Jose came in at the perfect time as well, because I think people had gotten jaded of the Wenger Ferguson error, if you like, you know, and it had kind of ran its course, and you know Ferguson did need a new sort of challenge in terms of.
He won that battle. He won that battle.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this is the time where I get to have fun, because you guys now have to put your balls on the line here and give me predictions, so I can have fun on the Monday mashup saying you got that really wrong, didn't you? So we'll start with Anthony. Give me a score prediction there.
Oh God.
2-1 United. Now, Anthony.
2-1 United. And I'm not being biased, but 2-1 United. Yeah.
2-1 United. Daragh.
I'm actually going to go with a draw, and I think it's actually going to be 2-2.
Would you?
I'd be happy with that. Mark.
I'd be happy too. 6 points ahead.
Me hard to say 2-1 United, but me head to saying 1-1.
Okay. Darren.
Yeah, I'm having the same argument myself as Mark is. They're hard to say 2-1, but the head says 1-1. I don't think there'll be a lot in it. Could even be a 0-0, but I think there'll be two teams set up not to get beaten.
Leon.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd like to say that, I mean, we have the extra days rest and all that stuff. It'll make a difference in great form after the Atletico match. But there are always these games where it's a draw. And as much as I don't want to say it, I'm going to say 1-0.
That'd be perfect for me as well. Ian.
You saved the best to last. Lads, I'm sorry, but
6-1 Chelsea.
No. I'm actually gonna go 3-1 Chelsea.
Nice.
I don't think Chelsea are going to set up to you know. I know what you were saying there, Darren. Like that we might set up not to concede, whatever. But I think he's going to go for the win, and I see a 2-3-1. But I've said 3-1 now, so I'm gonna stay where I am.
Well,
Man United's defense, you know what I mean? It's Man United's defense. Shocking.
That's what I'm thinking. Actually, can I preface that by saying, actually, right? If he starts with Giroud, I think if Giroud plays the game and he's the main number 9, I think 3-1 Chelsea. Yeah, I think Giroud will have him there, and I think with Mount and Hudson-Odoi playing off him, I see a 3-1.
Well, if you've been watching previous shows on the upper tier, we're the absolute kiss of death when it comes to score lines. They normally end up 0-0 or something like that. It wouldn't
surprise me either, though.
I'd also mention as well, Ian, you mentioned Michael Owen earlier. Will you send me a link to something there? I don't remember him at all. You vaguely played for United, I think.
He was a great United striker. He scored a goals.
Never heard of him.
I'm not familiar with him at all. I don't know who the guy is.
He's a Newcastle United legend.
He's probably the worst. He's probably the worst pundit of all time, and definitely the worst commentator of all time.
Yeah, he was a Stoke City legend as well.
He was kind of the he was kind of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer of Newcastle, wasn't he? That side of super sub, but rarely came off the bench. But I don't ever. But yeah, lads, as always, been brilliant coming on for these previews, and we will wait with bated breath as to how this match turns out. And you boys will be getting an earful on the Monday mashup if this goes skeways.
So I'll be here as well. So if my 3-1 prediction doesn't come on,
so for myself, the host, Niall Hogan of the Upper Tier, again, head over to the Dynamo Podcast Network, subscribe, share, smash, wreck that bell notification, and make sure you're supporting Irish podcasting. Check out Dara's content as NFL content on the Under Santa podcast, dropping weekly. Check out Ian on the Dynamo's Dozen, where you get everything and the talc. And also check us out on the 4 Podmen if you love pro wrestling, Ian being the host of that. Till next time, over. And
what about Mark's Trophies as well?
Mark's Trophies is the sponsor of the Monday mashup.
Yeah, that's it. You just have it here anyway. Well, there's